Hello, hello. Happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to our recap of video number 2 of our new video series, Building Winning Teams, a simple step-by-step guide. How are you? Kristy-Lee here, coming to you with our recap and bonus training from video 2. Now, I will say at the outset that where I am at the moment, the weather is not great. It is torrentially raining, so I'm hoping the connection stays okay, but if it's a little bit dodgy, we've got a huge weather event happening in New South Wales at the moment, so I have a waterfall running through my backyard and a flooded garage, and it is absolutely pouring down. So those of you on the East Coast, sort of northern New South Wales, has really copped it the last few days, I think, and now it's heading down further down the coast. So I hope you're in that area that you're okay, not flooded in or no major damage. I know we've had a few trees down and roads closed where I am. So if the connection's a little dodgy, that is why. But I'm here with you for our live bonus training from our video series, as I said, Building Winning Teams. Now, first up, if you're seeing this here on Facebook and you're not already a part of that series and you want in, it's not too late. There's still plenty of time to join us. You can easily play catch up on videos 1 and 2. So I've put a link right here if you want to join the video series and you haven't already done so. It's totally free, and inside this series I am teaching you the proven pathway to building a winning team. Not just any team, a team that's going to drive business performance, a team that's going to deliver you the success in business that you got into business searching for and wanting, and potentially most importantly, a team that's going to deliver you some sense of freedom. Because of course you can have success in your business if you work all the hours and you're working 60 to 80 hours plus per week. Of course you can have success. I've been there, I've done it. It was very successful, very profitable, but there's no sense of freedom in that. And if there's no sense of freedom, you may as well have a job. So this series is teaching you all about that. This is a proven pathway that other successful and savvy business owners are using right now to deliver them the exact same results. They're working 4-day weeks. They're able to take holidays. They feel confident that their team have it covered, and they don't spend all of their days and nights stressing about staffing problems. Now, of course, in any business, when you've got a team of people, it will happen that from time to time things go wrong. Something out of the ordinary happens, something comes from left field that you didn't expect, and it takes your time and it takes your energy. And part of this pathway is knowing how to deal with those things. And it's absolutely something that we're going to cover. So to recap where we're at as of today, video 1 has already launched and it's ready for you to watch. If you signed up, and if you're not, just go to that link, sign up, and you'll have immediate access to videos 1 and 2. And in video 1, we really spoke about what having a winning team is going to look like for your business. We spoke about the opportunity that you'd have to spend more time with your family, to travel more, to just have less stress and overwhelm in your life. And I understand that sometimes managing a team and having a team of people isn't always fun. And if you're not necessarily loving the leadership part, or you don't love the managing people part, then it can often feel quite overwhelming. And with the legislation the way it is, also, you're just not sure what's right, what's wrong. You want to do the right thing, but how do you get that information? And we spoke in video 1 about building a winning team means you're not going to have that overwhelm. You're going to be confident and in control when it comes to making decisions around your people, when it comes to leading your team. And we gave you an overview of the entire process, which we call the people pathway. That is, of course, an acronym: plan, employ, onboard, protect, leverage, and exit. And in video 1, we really focused on the first step of that people pathway. We focused on planning. Now, we do planning at all different stages of the people pathway, but we spoke about planning in video 1 in terms of planning to build your winning team. Planning for the structure that's going to be right for your business right now in order to deliver the success that you want. We spoke about an exercise that I call the clean slate exercise. And I encouraged you at the end of video 1 to go ahead and do that exercise and to plot out what your winning team needs to look like right now in order to be able to deliver to your customers, to provide the service you provide, to make the things you make, whatever it is that you do in your business. Because here's the thing, if we fail to plan, we're planning to fail. It's a fact. And if we don't spend a little bit of time, and it's not too time consuming, if we don't spend a little bit of time right there planning, then when we go to market, or we know we need new people, or we want to hire someone for our business, we can't possibly be doing it with any sense of strategic decision making or certainty. We're just hiring someone to fill a gap. But how do we know if we're going to get the right person for the right role? How do we know it's the right time if we haven't done our planning? So in video one, we really spoke about how to do that. So we looked at preparing to bring people into our business. Now, if you've got people already, totally fine. You still do that exercise. Inside your people-powered business, our membership community, our members are doing this exercise sometimes a couple of times a year, just depending on when they've got change happening. It's a great exercise to do to refresh and reset your mind when you're planning to build your team. And then in video two, which is what we are here to recap today, we took the next step in the journey and we spoke about employing people in our business. Specifically, we were looking at finding the right person for the right role at the right time for your business. And every business journey when it comes to building that team is different. Just because your competitors are increasing positions or adding a certain type of role to their business does not mean that's right for you. Just because you see other small business owners about your size doing that does not mean it's right for you. Everyone's situation is different, so it's about the right person, the right role at the right time for your business and your business journey. And doing that planning is actually really going to help you to determine when is the right time. The planning is all about figuring out the right time. So the next two pieces of the puzzle is what we really dove deep into during video two. We spoke about the right role and the right person. And yes, I'm putting them in that order. We don't find the person and then create the role for them. Back to front. We need to create the right role first and then go and find the right person to fill that role. So I promised you there'd be some bonus resources available inside the video series, and they are now live in there. So I've loaded into there just under video two for you two new resources. One is a position description checklist to help you run through what needs to go inside a position description. I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment. And the other is super useful. It is a KPI creation guide. So a KPI is a key performance indicator. And if you do not have these in your position descriptions already, that is a resource that's going to be super, super helpful for you. One of the biggest challenges that business owners face is non-performance, or my staff just aren't doing what I expect them to do. Why can't they just get it done like I think that they need to be getting it done? And often it comes down to the fact that we haven't communicated our expectations through key performance indicators. We haven't set a measurable objective through which we're measuring performance. When you've got underperformance, KPIs and position descriptions are your best friend. I talk about position descriptions a lot, and I call them the boss of all HR documents. And I truly, truly believe that. I think they are your number one resource when it comes to managing people in your business. If you've got poor performance, they're your go-to. If you want to increase performance, they're your go-to. If you want to set clarity and expectations, they are also your go-to. So position descriptions are super important, and the key performance indicators in them are probably the most powerful part of the position description. So let's stop here and go into a bit more detail about these two pieces of information. And as I said, the resources are there on the page for you. If you signed up for the video series, you can head to the page and you'll have them. If you haven't signed up and you want those resources, just go ahead. The link is right here, except if you're joining us in the Facebook group, because I, for some reason, can't put the link there, but I'll put it there as soon as I finish with this video, so you won't miss out. So position descriptions, what should be in your position descriptions? I'm going to run through a fairly long list, but it is, you can tweak things, but this is just an overarching of what could go in a position description. I'm going to point out to you the really important ones that I don't want you to miss. Now, obviously, all your position descriptions need a title. Pretty obvious, right? So with relation to that, what do you call your positions? Now, you can just go pretty normal. You can go, customer service operator or something fairly standard. However, feel free to weave into this your values, your lingo within your organization. I provided you with an example in video two of some titles that we used to use in my consultancy business when I had a large team there. Now, we were all about, part of our values was about bringing a fresh approach to things when it comes to recruitment and human resources. We're about keeping it fun and light, because I have a belief that HR does need some detail, but it should not be difficult. Yet it always feels difficult for the business owners. So we had a process whereby our team chose their own position descriptions, and I love position title, I should say. And I loved this because when they did that, they took more ownership over their role. It was an engagement strategy. So we've spoken about engagement before, but just to recap for those that haven't heard me share these statistics before, a highly engaged team of employees is proven, the studies show us, to be at least 17% more productive than their counterparts. And that productivity boosts profitability, business profits, by more than 20%. So all these little engagement strategies that you can use throughout, even things like having ownership over your position title, can go towards increasing that engagement, which is a direct impact on productivity and profitability, two pretty important success measures for most of you in business. So you start with the title. As I said, feel free to get fun and funky with this. It's just got to reflect your business. So in my business, I let my team choose their position titles. And in fact, we reviewed them every year at our team planning days. For example, my HR consultants didn't want to be HR consultants. That's pretty boring. They called themselves peopleologists. They really got that there's a science and an art when it comes to human resources and people. And they both approached that with that sense of fun and commitment to their roles. Similarly, one of my consultants one year decided that her title was going to be Client BFF. I'm not joking, and yes, I let her do it. But she was amazing with clients. Clients loved her. She's an extrovert. She really knew her stuff, and clients really, really loved her. And giving herself that title gave her the confidence to step into that part of the role that she was brilliant at. She was at all the networking events. She was at everything, and that's where she shone. So by her taking ownership over that title and really stepping in with confidence to that was a direct engagement strategy, and it worked wonders. So feel free to play with your position titles. In a position description, this is an internal document. You don't share this with anyone outside of your business. So feel free to make it really relevant and really aligned with the lingo, the language, the style, and the values of your business. So we've got a title, of course. The next part in our position description is usually a summary. It's like 1 to 2 paragraphs that might explain to any reader, anyone in the business that read this document, what the role actually is responsible for. So as an example, for your customer service staff, your summary might read something like, the customer service officer is responsible for handling all incoming order inquiries through to the processing of the order and to liaise with the customer right through to delivery. Just by reading that, you've got a sense of what this role is responsible for. Now, it could be a couple of sentences. You might have a couple of paragraphs, but no longer than that. This is not War and Peace. This is just a short summary that could tell anyone in the business what this role is responsible for. Now, of course, you also want a list of responsibilities in your position description. Now, if you don't have position descriptions in place right now and you do have a team of people, I'm about to give you a shortcut in relation to this, and that is to get your team to write their list of what they do every single day down over a period of a week or a month, and that will start to form out this responsibilities part. It is the lengthiest part of your position description, and it is important to have it really accurate and up to date. This is the part you want to be reviewing pretty regularly to make sure it's still accurate and up to date, because this is the part when you've got a performance issue or you're wondering why things aren't happening as they should. If the right details are in this part of the position description, you've got a starting point. You've got somewhere to say, hey, this is part of your role. Why aren't you doing this? So those conversations can easily happen. I also encourage you to include in your position description some information about your company values. So often when we've got an employee who's just not performing well, it's not about their technical performance, because usually they're doing the job pretty well. It's often about these little underlying niggles, and it's a values alignment issue. They're doing the job, but they're not doing it how you'd want it done from a values perspective. So if you have, particularly if you've got a great set of company values that you've really articulated and you've got written down, put them in every single position description. You might put something like, part of your role is to uphold and represent the company values, and here's what they are. So definitely include those in the position description, because that's going to really help you if you've got an issue with someone that's performing technically well, but we've got a values mismatch, which is honestly, sometimes they're the hardest headaches to deal with. And if you've been there, you know, right? So values, definitely. You, of course, also want, if they're responsible for a particular department or particular area of the business, you're going to want to include that in there. And you absolutely want key relationships covered in your position description. And so by that, I mean, who does the role report to? Does anyone report into this role? Also, if they've got key relationships with suppliers or certain customers or stakeholders, include all of this in that key relationships area. And if they need anything like a particular license or qualification, it's an inherent requirement of the role. So if they lost their license, they couldn't do the job, or they lost that accreditation or that qualification, or they didn't maintain it, didn't get their CPD points, then that needs to be in there as well. You also might want to have, well, you often will want to have, what hours does the role work, what days? If that's part of the role, that this role needs to be able to work 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. Monday to Friday, whatever, put it in there. If it's an inherent requirement of the role that those hours are worked and those days and those pattern of work. If it's a shift work, you might want to put in there, this is a shift work role that works a rotating roster 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. Whatever's relevant, but make sure you include that in there. And then if there's anything extra that is inherent to the role. Now, for some of you, you're in industries where accreditation and CPD points and continued professional learning is really important. You might want to put this in the position description that they're required to participate in this accreditation and learning process. And there may even be parameters for some of you. Some of you, I know it has to be, 1 hour a month or 30 hours over 3 years. Your accreditations are all different, but if it's an inherent requirement, I know, if you're in allied health, if you're in accounting, if you're in finance, it is. So include that in there. And last, 2 more things I should say, key performance indicators, because I'm about to talk about them and they're really important. Key performance indicators or key success criteria. These are essential. These are the core things that tell us if someone is being successful in the role. They need to be measurable. I'm going to go into key performance indicators in detail in a moment, so I'll leave that there. And the final thing that you should definitely have on your position description is a sign-off section. Somewhere where the employee who's taking on this role signs off to say they have read the position description, they understand it, and they're committed to participating fully in that position description. Having that sign off is a protection mechanism, and protection is part of the people pathway because it helps us to confirm that. So if they're not performing, we go back to them and say, hey, you've signed this document. You said that you were willing and able and committed to doing this role. Let's figure out where it's gone wrong. So having that sign off is really, really important, from the employee committing to being ready to participate in this position description and committed to fulfilling the role based on the criteria in the position description. So they're the key things we want in there. We want a title, a summary, your business values, the responsibilities, the key relationships, licenses, accreditations, qualifications, key performance indicators, hours and patterns of work, anything extra that's important to your business, and the employee's sign off. Now, I'll just remind you, there's a checklist with all of that that's available to you if you are signed up for Building Winning Teams. And if you're not, the link is here. If you're watching inside the Facebook group, I'm going to put the link in straight after because it won't let me post it in there directly from StreamYard. If you're not already signed up, you can go and sign up and grab your position description checklist right there. Okay, now the other key thing I wanted to cover off in relation to this is key performance indicators, because it is something that trips a lot of people up. They're tricky. They're not the easiest thing to create, I won't lie, but they are very powerful. So it's really important. So inside Your People Powered Business, our membership community, we go deep in teaching a lot of this, but I want to give you an overview, and as well as the position description checklist, you've got the KPI creation guide now available to you. Both of those are now live inside Building Winning Teams. So the key thing with key performance indicators, now these can be called a couple of different things. I call them KPIs, that's probably the most common term. They can also be called key success criteria or key result areas. Same, really. But KPIs is how I refer to them, so understand I'm talking about all of those things combined here. Now, when you're creating KPIs, really there's no one way to do it. There is, various ways you can create them. There's no one size fits all approach. But one of the easiest methods that I find to use is to use the SMART goal setting acronym. If you follow that framework, and that's the framework I do share inside the KPI creation guide, you'll create KPIs that are really measurable, and that is the important aspect of them. You need to look at a KPI and say, is this being achieved or not? And that means the person is successful in that aspect of their role or not. When it comes to performance review time, golden. So let's go through that SMART acronym and have a look at an example. Let's say that we are dealing with someone that's in the customer service space, because we'll continue on with that example. So the first part is that it needs to be specific. What specifically are we looking to achieve? In this example, let's say that we're looking to achieve an increase in customer retention, okay? So that's the specific part. Measurable. How are we measuring this? Up, down, numbers. It could be something like by 10%. So really specific and measurable. Increase customer retention by 10%. How? What's the actionable step that we're going to take here? It could be by introducing customer care calls every month to ensure our customers are tapping into the service, getting the value they need, whatever it is. So the action is introducing customer care call. And the relevance, that's the R part of the acronym, is tied into something that's part of a much bigger picture. So let's say one of your core values is to deliver value to every single customer in every single interaction. That could be woven in here to the SMART acronym. Increase customer retention by 10% by making customer care calls in order to ensure the customer is receiving value from the service. And finally, it needs to be time-bound. When are we giving them to improve this customer retention by 10%? End of the month, end of the quarter? There's no right or wrong, it depends on your business, but put a timestamp on it. So in the example I just gave you, we've used the SMART acronym, specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound, for a customer service role whose goal is, one of their KPIs is to improve customer retention. So our KPI becomes improve customer retention by 10% through introducing customer care calls to ensure our customers are getting value from our service by the end of the quarter. Simple, right? Now with KPIs, what you want to be thinking about are what are the key objectives of the role, and if you can get it to 5, that's probably a good number, no less than 3 definitely, but maybe 5 core objectives, and then you go ahead and create a KPI for each of those core objectives. Super simple. You can review them every quarter whenever you're doing your reviews, but that is a really simple process that you can go through to create KPIs. So I hope that's helped, because I know that's something that often we get stuck on. Those KPIs are so important, but they're tricky to put together. So that is my overview today of position descriptions and KPIs. So just to backtrack, in video 2, we spoke about the employee part of the people pathway, specifically the right role, the right person, the right time. Now, because of the planning that we did in video 1, we would know when the right time was. So that's ticked off and done. Your position descriptions and KPIs are how you create the right role, and we've just gone through that. And then, of course, it's about finding the right person. So much fun, and I know many of you get really stressed about this. I know this morning there's been some comments around, oh, I get so stressed, I don't want to make the wrong decision. And you're right to be stressed about it, and the fact you're stressed about it means you care and it's important. We know that a failed recruit or someone not working out or having to replace a position is going to cost you no less than 1/3 of that employee's annual salary. No less. Often it's more. At a minimum, let's say you've got a $60,000 per annum position. At a minimum, refilling that role is about a $20K project. Not just in core recruitment costs, which it will be, the advertising or using the recruiter, whatever you do to recruit. Also the time. How much is your time worth? Pretty precious, right? The lost productivity, because when someone's opting out of a role, they're not productive. Then when someone's coming into the role, they're not at peak production yet. So that lost productivity, there's kind of a dip like that tends to happen. Impact on team morale, effect on the rest of the team having to pick up the pieces, lost customers due to retention issues. Customers don't like staff turnover in many cases. There's so many ways that contribute to that cost, but we are talking minimum 1/3 of their wage to replace the position. So getting it wrong, yes, it's not ideal. We want to avoid making costly hiring errors. So putting some pressure on yourself to get it right, I understand that. But really, if we follow the right recruitment process, we have the best chance of making the right decision. Now, I'm not saying you will never get it wrong. I've had it wrong before, and I know all the things that I need to do. The reality is when you're hiring people, you are dealing with people. People are not a square box that doesn't change. They change their mind. They decide to go traveling. They 6 months later decide they're fallen pregnant. They're going to take a year off. They want to go to uni. They're moving somewhere else that's outside of your location. Things happen in people's lives that not even they could anticipate. So I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but by doing all the right processes, you're going to minimize the chance of it happening. And in video 2, we walked through some of these key things. We spoke about having the right attraction strategy so that we're bringing, like magnets, the right applicants towards us when we're going to the market to recruit a position. So the attraction strategy. We spoke about the screening strategy, and I know many of you have seen and used our screen resumes in less than a minute framework. And I tell you, that is something I've developed over 20 years doing this kind of work, where I've had that overwhelm, particularly, you know, early in my career, 300 resumes coming at me. How do I figure this out? This framework is powerful. And I know some of you inside our membership have definitely used this with great success. It just removes the overwhelm and it makes sure that you're going to have the right shortlist, because that's what the screening's about. The screening is about weeding out the muck to make sure you have a really good shortlist to choose from. So there's the screening resumes process. That's the first step of screening. Then you want to do some further screening. You want to go deeper. Might be emails, phones, all sorts of things can be used in the second step of screening. Then, of course, you've got your interviews, the most powerful tool when it comes to making that right selection decision. And the interviews, 3 core ingredients. Do you remember what they are? Curiosity, that's my favorite one. Clarity and consistency. Okay, you need to be really consistent with your interviews. Ask the same questions of all the applicants. Have the same people to the interviews. Have the same time set aside. Be really consistent. You also want to have clarity. What is it that you're seeking in the interview? What is it that you're hoping to get out of every single question that you've asked? Always have a purpose. Be really clear about that. And the most important ingredient of successful interviews is curiosity. If you're not genuinely curious about this applicant and the answers they're giving you, you won't dig deeper when you need to, and you won't get this really great information out of the interview process that you could have if you got curious. So get curious throughout your interviews. Think really intentionally about the questions that you're asking and mix up the questions. Have behavioural-based, have competency-based, have values-based questions. All those things need to be woven in. And after the interview, do not forget to do your post-interview assessments before you make any decisions. Reference checks, oh my goodness, do not miss reference checks. Some of you I know think they're a waste of time, but they're so valuable. And I have had people tell me shocking things in reference checks before. So you definitely want to be reference checking no less than 2 reference checks every employee with someone they've reported to before. You might also want to do some other background checks. I check their social media profiles. You might be doing criminal records checks. You might be doing skills assessments, psychometric profiling, all the sorts of things that you want to do to make sure that you're making the right decision. Even if when you get out of the interview, you've got one standout and you're really certain they're the right one, still do your checks and measures. You just never know. And once you've gone through that process, you will have a really robust framework for making sure you make the right hiring choice. Because it's who we bring into our business, who we bring into our teams that's going to set us up for success in building a winning team. We don't bring the right people in to begin with, we're setting it up for disaster. We're never going to be able to build a winning team with the wrong people on board. So that's what we covered in video 2, and I hope that recap's been helpful. If you are here live and you want to ask questions, just let me know. Or if you're catching this on the replay, you've got my email, just let me know if you've got any questions, or pop it here under this video and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Now, video 3 in our series is released on Monday, so wait for your inbox for that to come out. We're going to go deep into the next steps. Now that you've got these people, what do you do next? Can't just leave them. It's not a set and forget situation. It's what you do next that actually really ramps up the energy and makes sure that your team is not just a team, but a winning team. So it's not just about bodies in place, bums on seats. It's about what happens next. That's where the magic really happens. So I can't wait to bring you video 3, which comes out on Monday. And then the final video is video 4, which will be live with you on Wednesday. And video 4, I share the exact blueprint for how to make this all happen. So you can go away and implement this into your business. Video 4 is juicy, juicy, juicy. So I don't want you to miss out on video 4, which launches Wednesday, 24th of March. That's it from me for today. Thank you for joining us for our live recap training. As I said, any questions, please let me know. And I look forward to seeing you in video 3 on Monday.